what you've raised about the seeing work and feeling seen was right at the center of Carrie's work.
Really talking about the work that had been made and really digging for that work. And that was really a lot of the effort and time around my sort of initial advance into the world of representation and photography in particular. And then, of course, finding my own voice and my own place.
I think the word that Carrie used of absence really struck a chord, because it's quite clear that that absence that you named is produced, it's constructed. It is actually a counterfactual to the presence and history and tradition out of which we emerge. And, you know, as you described your own work, to meet those people who had formed that history and then to document it, to actually take on the role of chronicling that history, that indeed that history exists. It's just buried, repressed, and produced as an absence.
This is work that I need, this is work my community needs. And then when I created Docs, my magazine, which was for a community in South Wales in Cardiff, which is one of the oldest multicultural communities in the UK, and consistently deals with systemic racism, is like completely segregated. Like there's literally a massive wall that's been built on the side of the community to kind of shut it out because it's so multicultural and wants to kind of, I feel like the council wants it to be othered. There was such an absence, but when you think of absence, you think of like emptiness, but it was like, it wasn't empty. It was like that absence was filled with so much negativity of what Butetown and Docks was, that it needed to be refilled with what it really is and what I see and what my community sees. And it's just like the same story over and over again. And we see it in America and we see it in Cardiff. If anyone from Cardiff is on the call, you know about the Mahmoud Hassan case, which is going on at the moment. You know about the Cardiff 3, which happened in, I think it was the 90s, that was in Butetown. Like we see it time and time again. And there's only so many news reports we can see. We need to see it in our museums like we do now in Cardiff with your piece, Carrie, and be like, it is here, it is in America, it's all over the world, and something needs to be done and this conversation needs to happen.
Is that for me, it's less about necessarily finding my voice, but it's more about creating a context where I feel like my voice is valued. I have space to share what I am able to share. So it's more around the context rather than myself, because I feel like the context so much kind of informs how I show up. It's this thing of being multifaceted and allowing yourself to be that.
The question about representation and what gets projected and one's own space within one's context, all of these things are deeply political. So taking up that question of power, whether it's to work in the cultural industries or whether it's to work in the citadels of power, and of course the museum is a citadel of power.
I've been talking about many of these issues for 50 years, maybe more, long time. So my whole life has been buried in these issues and trying to excavate myself out of these issues, to sort of get on top of them, right? So that they don't completely control me or consume me in a way that is destructive to my person. Because ultimately that's what they can do. And that's because that's how powerful they are. And the systems that we are challenging are very complex and very dangerous, and can be dangerous to us. And so knowing what they are, knowing how to use them, knowing how to confront them, I think becomes really important. You know, I started standing outside of museums 20 years ago, just standing in front of them, 15 years ago, just standing in front of them, thinking about them, right? You know, standing in front of various institutions, thinking about the role of capital, thinking about the role of cultural institutions, simply pointing to them with my own body. And any number of these institutions have historically refused to accept that actually, change was coming.
I return often to this amazing quote by Jamaican poet Lorna Goddison, who says, when she was questioned for her use of British poetic traditions, why she made use of them, she responded by kind of quoting an enslaved woman who was on a plantation in Jamaica, and effectively, when she took sugar from the plantation on which she lived and went to court, and when she was asked why did you steal the sugar, she said, I am not a thief, I took what was mine.
So we're dealing with these sort of ongoing systemic issues that are part of the thing that we are continuously unpacking, or as someone like Amiri Baraka had said, or said so eloquently, we are constantly dealing with the changing same. I think that we build communities where we are. We are in a very difficult circumstance and situation. We know that we're dealing with extraordinary powers, these systems that have been in place for a very long time. Capitalism is real. It's not an imagined entity, and yet within that, we can build community, and we can build communities that speak to and that critique power all along the way.